Oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy of a review. What's up, everybody? Renee here. So, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is finally dawning upon us this month, and I had a chance to see it early, so I'm here to talk about it and give you my thoughts and review on it. Are you ready for that? Because I'm ready to talk about it right now. After the review, make sure to check out our channel partner Surfshark, where you can get 82% off and up to 4 months free subscription to an award-winning VPN service that I truly love and stand by. More about them towards the end of the video. So for those of you who know, you know, Zack Snyder's been around for a hot minute now, and he's been involved in a lot of very interesting movies and franchises. I think for many of you, you were aware of him when he did the 300 movie, which I thought was brilliant and fantastic. Maybe some of you who are more horror lovers know his version of Dawn of the Dead, which I also thought was very well done. For you comic book lovers and you lovers of superhero movies, you are familiar with his work when it comes to Watchmen, and of course a lot of the DC stuff, Man of Steel, Justice League, all that kind of stuff. He also did a movie called Sucker Punch. Y'all remember that movie? All right, keep that in mind because I'm going to refer to that a little later in this review. So Rebel Moon is going to be a brand new universe that he's creating basically from scratch, but this all resulted from a failed pitch attempt to Disney for a Star Wars movie that he really wanted to do. So I think it's very safe to say that this is Zack Snyder's answer to Star Wars. This is his Star Wars universe. And after seeing this movie, I'm going to say this. I'm glad that his pitch for Star Wars didn't go through, because we would not have been able to see what would have resulted in his own vision, in himself creating this whole new universe. Now, my out of theater reaction, I mentioned that this is very much a Zack Snyder film, and it is. And if you're familiar with his work, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The visual effects and look and cinematography in this film is fantastic. All throughout this movie, you could take so many different screenshots and scenes and turn them into like desktop wallpaper. Sometimes I felt like certain imagery looked like they were taken out of like, the heavy metal type of magazines from back in the day, when Frank Frazetta used to do those artwork pieces and all that stuff. This film has brilliant imagery all throughout. Plus, the way he filmed and edited this movie should be talked about because it is gorgeous to look at. Seeing it on the big screen really emphasizes on how lovely this film looks. Just how visually pleasing it is to see everything on a big screen in front of you. And of course, if you know Zack Snyder, you know he's very good at action scenes. And a lot of the action scenes in here are amazingly choreographed and well done. Of course, you have your typical Zack Snyder slow-mo moments. And this definitely does have its good share of slow-mo sprinkled in all throughout the entire film. So you got great looking visuals, amazing cinematography, fun and entertaining action sequences. Kind of reminds me of another film of his. And unfortunately, the similarities don't end there. When Sucker Punch came out, it was one of those visually pleasing movies. And by looking at the trailer, or if it was playing in some sort of bar in the back without the sound on, it looks amazing. And you're probably wondering like, well, what is this movie? I've never seen a movie like this. And then if you sit down and actually watch it, woof, where's the substance? Where's the story? Where's the acting? Where are the performances? And it was a huge disappointment. Unfortunately, Rebel Moon Part 1, yes, this is Part 1 of a two-parter, share very similar results at the end of the day. Look, I am not a Zack Snyder hater. I just mentioned before that I enjoyed a lot of his films, but there are other stuff that he does that is very questionable. It's kind of like, when you go on a dating app, and you see like these gorgeous profiles and, people who attract you, and you swipe right on them. And then when you start talking to them, you're like, oh, this person could be interesting. And then when you finally meet them and you spend some time with them, they're like, whoa, that person's kind of boring, or that person's really shallow. Unfortunately, this is the same thing that happens to me personally when I see Zack Snyder movies. Let's start off first with the performances here. Sofia Boutella is an interesting performer, and she has an interesting spot in Hollywood right now. She was first introduced to us in Kingsman, and she was always touted as a great action person, someone who can carry out stunts and who does really well in action scenes. And yes, she does that very well. I mean, she had a dancer background, right? But when it comes to her acting, hate to say it, but there's not much there yet. And for her to be the leading person in this movie, unfortunately, it didn't work for me. But then you could say, like, well, some of the great action stars out there weren't really great actors. You have your Sylvester Stallones, you have your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, maybe some would even say Keanu Reeves, which is all very valid and fair. However, they all contain something and possess something that really, really stood out. And that's like a panache. They had like this charm, something that really drew you to them. And they worked with directors and people that really helped emphasize a lot of that stuff. Here, I didn't get that sense with Sofia at all. Her dialogue was dull. I didn't really get any really true sense of emotion out of her. One thing I always like to do, especially when it comes to epic films like this, I want to see how close I can get to the characters. Close enough for me to care, so that anything that they go through, it really affects me in a way. Here, I just didn't get that from her, nor did I really get that from anybody else. With the exception of Charlie Hunnam. I loved him in Sons of Anarchy, but ever since then, I have not seen anything that he's done that really stood out. Here, out of everyone present, especially Djimon Hounsou, who I adore as an actor, he stood out as someone with the most charm all throughout the film. Now, there's an interesting thing that happens with him, and I'm not going to spoil that here, but when that revelation happens and whatever happens, I actually found myself getting a little affected by it. But everyone else we were introduced to, I was just like, okay, well, that's that person. Oh, that's person. They all fit a role. Every character that we met fit a certain role that was needed to help move the story along. One of the common tropes that we've seen in action, adventure, fantasy movies, sci-fi movies, especially when it comes to an ensemble, the whole typical thing where here's this opposing figure or group of people, and then we have this one person that has to try to lead a group of people to go against them, or possibly to get more help and get a bunch of people to rise up against this evil force. That's pretty much what we're getting here in this movie. And again, this is something that we've seen in multiple movies in the past, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, whatever have you. I could spend an hour talking about comparisons, compare this to this franchise and that franchise and this franchise. I'll leave that all up to you out there, but you're getting a very similar story here. So we have this band of characters, but each one was introduced in a certain way that felt like, all right, let's have a hero moment of them to showcase what they are, what they're capable of, and why they will fit along with the group. And that's the thing. Every one of these characters had like that intro moment, right? And then eventually have them, part of the team is like, all right, we got the team together and we're going to all go out there and fight against this opposing force. It's almost as if Zack Snyder sat down in a diner or something like that, took a napkin and starts, jotting down, oh, this will be a cool scene or sequence if this happened. Or it'll be kind of cool if a character did this and did that. So basically, he had all of these notes on a lot of cool action sequences or action moments or action scenes. And then he built the story around that. That's kind of what this movie felt like to me. As far as the universe is concerned, I will give Zack kudos on this. It does look like he spent a lot of time in building this universe that he's introducing us to. And it's a very ambitious introduction and really quite ambitious undertaking to create this whole new world for us to be introduced to and for him to build all of these like movies. And I hear he's going to be working on possibly video games and books and maybe like a series. He's really all dedicated in making sure that we pretty much fall in love with this universe he's creating, and so that he could tell all of these stories that he wants to tell. The planets are interesting, the environments are interesting. A lot of the aliens that were introduced in the movie were very fascinating and interesting. But for the movie as a whole, I hate to say it, but I just didn't feel much for it. When it comes down to the story that was trying to be told and the characters that we were introduced to, I personally just didn't feel attachment to anything. When a certain character died, I was just like, okay, That happened. When there's like that big main confrontation at the end, I was just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that was neat. Oh, it's over? Oh, I felt very blah watching it. I felt myself kind of just doing this and leaning like this and just like, where is this going? And I think that's one thing I kept asking myself is, where is this going? And then when we got there, it's just like, okay, why are we here? And I'm not trying to be mean, really, but I'm just being honest. Now, even though I said like Zack Snyder does a really good job at editing and things like that, there is something that he suffers from time to time, and that's pacing. A lot of the pacing felt off in this movie, and things would happen kind of like in weird order. We go through most of the first act not really knowing who Sofia Boutella's character is or why she's so important. And then all of a sudden, during this one random campfire, she starts divulging her past and everything like that. Just out of nowhere. And this took what felt like forever to her to explain her whole backstory and everything like that. And then when it was all said and done, she said something really hilarious, just like, well, I'm just telling you this just so you know the kind of character that I am. No shit, we needed that even before. That part got a huge laugh out of the entire audience that I was in because it was kind of silly and kind of ridiculous. And I'm already seeing a lot of the comments out there and people saying that, well, this is part one of a two-part movie. So maybe a lot of this was just set up. And if you watch the second one, then maybe that's really going to make everything make more sense and more entertaining once you see it as a whole. And I would say that's a fair thing to say, honestly. However, I will say this. Every time there was a multi-part movie franchise coming out and it was very well known that this was a part one of something, that first part needed to do enough to make me interested enough to want to see the rest of it. If you were to ask me about this movie a week or two from now, I probably would have forgotten half of it by then. Does it make me interested and excited to see part two? Not really. Am I gonna eventually see it? More than likely, because I do want to see where this thing will end, and it, you know, it's what I do, and this is what I'm going to talk about on the channel. But I'm really not chomping at the bit to say, oh, I can't wait for part two to come out. I need to know where this all goes. I left the theater, I was just like, well, that was a Zack Snyder movie. I'll close out in saying this. I don't like sitting here shitting on movies. I enjoy movies. I enjoy the art of filmmaking, and I enjoy a huge range of movies that come out every year. All you have to do is look at the channel and look at all the movies that I review, and they run the gamut. I love my sci-fi, I love my action movies, I love my fantasy. So every time there's something new within those realms, I'm always more than willing to check it out. And I've said it before, I am a fan of Zack Snyder. I'm always rooting for him. I love how passionate he is when it comes to his projects that he's working on. I love the amount of time that he puts into the lore and the creativity of a lot of these stories that he tries to tell us. And this whole Rebel Moon universe is his most ambitious undertaking to date, but it's off to a bad start in my opinion, and it just didn't hit with me. But I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who will think differently, and I want to hear from you. I want to know, once you do have a chance to see this film, what did you think of it? And if you disagree with everything that I just said, or just give me your take on it. I love having the conversations. And to those of you who are reacting and commenting to my out of theater reaction, albeit it was a very small one because I was under embargo, I'm looking forward to further carrying that conversation on now that I can fully talk about it. But because of how this movie made me feel, I unfortunately will give it a 2 out of 5 star rating on Letterboxd. I'm curious to see what Zack Snyder is going to do with this world and this universe as he's introducing us to. And at the end of the day, if you are a Zack Snyder fan and you really worship on the altar of Snyder, I really hope this movie does well for you. And I hope that you enjoy this movie, because at the end of the day, that's what all that matters. The only thing that matters is how you take the movie and how it affects you and how you feel about it. I say it all the time, doesn't matter at all what I think. What matters at the end of the day is what all of you think. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that like button to let the algorithm know and let the YouTube universe know that this was something you enjoyed, so that other like-minded folks like you and I can enjoy it as well. If you didn't like this, hit that dislike button. If you want to stay up to date with all the things that we do here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed and make sure you have notifications turned on to get notified every time a new video is posted. But that's going to be it for me for now. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. I will catch you all in the next one. All right, peace out, y'all. With internet privacy being such a huge deal these days, it's more important now than ever to protect yourself. With Surfshark VPN, you can easily hide your IP address and encrypt all data that you send and receive. You can easily switch regions to other countries in the world. This means not only your true IP address and identity is masked, it also means that you can get around any annoying geolocation locked video content. You can truly unlock the full potential of your streaming services, and for me that's important since I need to research or catch up on movies that may not always be available in my region. With Surfshark VPN, I can easily switch to any region like the UK, and this problem simply goes away. And now I can watch Hulu content directly on Disney Plus or check out some movies on Netflix that I can't otherwise watch here in the US. I also do a lot of banking and account management online, and by using Surfshark VPN, I feel extremely safe and secure doing so. Surfshark VPN also allows you to connect to unlimited devices simultaneously on a single account, and this includes Windows devices, Linux, Android, iOS, Amazon TV, and much more. To take advantage of the current Black Friday deals that they have, make sure to scan the QR code that you see on the screen now, or click on the link in the description below to secure yourself a great deal that gives you a subscription discount over 80% and up to 5 additional months for free. And if you think it sucks, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, which will give you plenty of time to try out Surfshark VPN risk-free.